Subject to is a strategy, one of multiple strategy of acquiring control of a property. Okay, it's a strategy to acquire control of the property, because just because I bought something subject to doesn't mean I actually have to own the property, which is interesting. Okay, it is the process of buying a home without having to qualify, without having to assume the loan, without having to show bank records, tax records, proof of funds, or anything really. What you're doing in subject to is you are taking over somebody else's existing debt, and you are taking over the property. So what happens in a subject to transaction is somebody owns a house. That house has a mortgage to Wells Fargo. You, the buyer, instead of paying off that mortgage to Wells Fargo, you simply take ownership of the property by transferring the deed or the certificate of ownership into your name, but the mortgage always stays in the seller's name. So the way I look at it is this. Cody, do you buy things with credit card?
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of credit card do you have, by the way?
Amex, dog.
Okay, so Cody's an Amex guy. I'm an Amex guy too. I buy literally the first card on my wallet right here is an Amex. It's one of two things I carry on my wallet is an Amex, right? So everything is paid for with somebody else's money. We agree with that, right? So you go to the grocery store, Cody, let's say you go down to the grocery store to Albertsons, Bash's, Smith's, Kroger's, whatever it is, wherever you are in the country, and you buy $200 worth of groceries with your American Express.
Mm-hmm.
Who owns those groceries?
I do.
You're telling me that even though you used American Express's money to buy those groceries are not owned by American Express.
Correct.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so what happens is you get a receipt, right? You get the certificate of ownership or the receipt of those groceries, and you walk out of that store, and if the security guard stopped you and said, "How do I know you own those groceries?" What would you show them? The receipt.
My receipt.
Okay, but hold on, but you still used American Express's money.
Yes.
Okay, so this is very similar to buying a house. Okay, so what happens is when you go down to a bank and you go, "I want to buy that house over there," the bank loans the money to you to buy the house. And weirdly, the bank doesn't own that house. The bank loaned you the money. You have a debt, just like you do to the credit card company. You make a minimum payment, or you can pay it all off in one fell swoop if you decide to do so. But when you buy a house, the receipt of that house is called a deed, or the certificate of ownership is called a deed. Okay. In a grocery store, it's called a receipt. With a house, it's called a deed, but it's basically the same exact thing. It shows who has ownership. So Cody, let's say you walk outside of that grocery store.
Yep.
And I run up to you and I go, "Bro, I have no time. I have to hurry and get back to this party I have at my house. I will pay you for all of the groceries in your cart plus $20. And you go, "Okay, great." So what then happens is I go, "Well, I'm not going to pay $200 in cash. What I'll do is I'll just pay off your American Express next month." Could we technically do that?
Yeah, why not?
So I just subject to your groceries.
Yes.
So I didn't have to even go through the store. I didn't have to pick out the things I want. I didn't have to wait through the line. I didn't have to do anything. I literally just took over your American Express payment, and next month I'll make your American Express payment when the money comes to me. Okay. So the way I told this story once is I told the story of essentially, let's say, Cody, you go, "All right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a big barbecue. I'm going to buy hot dogs. I'm going to buy buns. I'm going to buy ketchup, mustard, all that kind of stuff." And you go to the store and you pay full retail. You use your American Express, you walk out the store, and you've got a receipt that says you spent $200, and you have a grocery cart full of $200 worth of hot dogs.
Yep.
Why would somebody come up to you and pay you what it was worth, or maybe even a little bit more than what it was worth? And what would they do with it? Why would they even be willing to do that? Well, think about it this way. What if I went to Cody and I said, "Hey, I want all those hot dogs," and I could go out and I could start like a hot dog stand, And instead of me, paying Cody $225 or $250 for a bunch of hot dogs, I could go out and actually cook those hot dogs, sell them, in front of a ballpark or at a park or something like that. And I can make $500, $600 or whatever, right?
Yep.
It's the same thing with housing. So what Cody and I have done so many times, countless times. In fact, we just got a triplex in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We got a 4-bed, 4-bath house in Texas. We got a 6-bed, 6-bath house in Florida coming down the pipe. We've got these amazing Airbnbs all over the country, and we've bought all of these houses utilizing this same method. Somebody else went out and got the mortgage. Somebody else went out and borrowed the money in their name. And all Cody and I are doing is asking them to transfer the ownership to us, and we just make payments to their quote unquote American Express card. So we didn't have to qualify for the loan. We didn't have to assume or put our name anywhere. Literally took over somebody else's credit card payment and just bought and took over the groceries. Okay. Transferred the receipt. So it's kind of the same thing. If you ever been to Costco, Cody, I don't know if you're old enough to care about Costco.
I would go to Costco when I was a little boy with my grandparents.
There you go. So when you get older,
you go, you have like 18 kids and you need to buy like the giant rolls of toilet paper.
Basically,
you need like 100
Do you
rolls.
remember what happened at Costco that they took what did they do right before you walk out the door?
Check your receipt. They do a little check off on your receipt.
They make sure that you are the owner, you paid for the groceries, right?
Yep.
Okay, so when I'm walking out of the grocery store, out of Costco, do they ask me who I borrowed the money from? Do they ask me what credit card I used? Do they ask me whose credit card I used?
No, they're just like, yo, did you pay for this or not?
That's exactly how it is in Subject 2. So what happens in Subject 2 is that the only thing that matters to me is my name on the deed, right? So many people are like, that's not possible that you can buy a house without a loan, without qualifying, without an assumption. Okay, but you do it with groceries and you do it with basically anything you buy your credit card with. You're borrowing money to get something, and the person you borrowed the money from doesn't own it. And technically, I could go sell that, or I could let somebody take over my car payments. I could let somebody take over, my groceries, like we talked about. We've taken over air conditioning payments. We've taken over IRS liens. We've taken over state and HOA liens. Man, it's endless what you can do with Subject 2. And it's not just houses, it's literally anything else.